your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week. Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And I am Richard Dugan, your host for this program. And this, folks, is going to be probably one of the most challenging interviews thus far. Why? Because I have a personal bias. I will be open about that. I have a bias about the conversation we're about to have with our very special guest. And I am glad to have him with us because he may be able to help me with my bias, ladies and gentlemen. Hank Quense is my guest. He's written a book called The Author's AI Toolkit. And we're going to get into that. But Hank, thank you so much for joining us. And I have to ask, it's really you, right? You're really live and in-person human being, right? This is not AI.
Yes, it is. I am not a robot. No,
Okay.
I am real. A human. I'm a real human.
As am I.
Yes.
If you cut us, do we not bleed? Yes, we do. Well, AI is a huge subject these days, very controversial in a lot of circles, especially when it comes to authorship. We'll talk about some of that. We'll also talk about your toolkit because you are, it sounds to me, again, from what I have read, you're in favor of, you use it, shall we say, maybe not in favor of, but you use AI in your process of writing. Am I correct?
You are. Yeah, I do use it.
All right. And I will tell you that I was somewhat enlightened. Someone else actually started this process of addressing my bias by saying, what's the difference between AI of the 21st century and a ghostwriter? And I thought, okay, you have a valid point. It's just that this ghostwriter has no flesh and blood and has access to pretty much all of the information that exists on the planet, or at least all the information that we choose to give it. Is that a fair assessment?
No, I don't think it's. I don't think comparing a ghostwriter and AI is very accurate.
Okay. Then help us to understand as we start talking about your toolkit, because I want to get into that. It's important because I'm an author. I've written a book, and I did it all on my own. To believe it or not, Hank, to my mother's not so much consternation, just her comment. The next book you write, don't go back and try to do it with this one because you've already published it. In the future, get yourself an editor, get yourself a proofreader, and someone who can check all of the spelling and the grammar and so forth, so that you don't have the kind of mistakes that you have in your first book. And again, I took that honestly. I said, she's right. And so in the future, that's what I'll do. Does AI provide that capacity of proofreading and grammar and spelling and all of that stuff to make sure
It
that when
can,
we put our book
it
out,
can,
it's accurate, it's correct, and so forth?
it can do a lot of that, Richard. Just a comment though,
Hmm.
you've been using AI for years.
I
It's
would
called
agree.
spell check. It's called spell check.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
tiny
and it
AI.
doesn't always work.
Yeah. Yes, of course, you've cursed at it many times also when it's spell checked wrong. But
Yeah.
that's just a very simple example of what AI can do.
Hmm.
It's all the stuff you can do. It can do editing. It can clean up your text. It can do a lot of different things, and I use it quite frequently now. I
Yeah.
used it this morning. I gave it a description of a new website I got, and I said, give me the script for a 10 slide trailer," and it did. And I just the scripts, and what was in each of those slides. And I
Yeah.
went to Canva and I used that as a basis to create a trailer that would have taken me probably 2 or 3 hours on my own, but with the AI help, I did the whole thing in probably 40 minutes.
Well, I would even take it another step further. You say spell check. I'll go back even further and I will compare macros that we have used, all of us, let's say in Word or the word processing programs that we use, spreadsheets, for example, Excel. My boss, by the way, is an expert in Excel. Oh my God, he's incredible. But when you want to set up formulas, I've set up income and expense sheets where I need a total at the bottom, and
Yeah.
I put in a macro. To me, that is what would be considered a very simple uh, piece of AI, or in that respect. Would I be? Is that a fair analogy?
Uh, no, I don't think it is.
No. Okay.
No.
So
And
what's the difference?
that's just math. You just wrote a formula.
Okay.
That's pretty much the same as what you do in physics class. It's you write formulas, and this happens to be in a spreadsheet.
Hmm.
But I don't think that's AI, because AI does what it does is goes out and compares a lot of different information in order to answer your question. In this case, it's got a whole library of stuff that it looks at in order to be able to formulate a response to your query or question.
Yeah. So when you utilize AI, which of course you have, and you put your name at the bottom or on the front cover under the title, that is a genuine and honest statement. This book was written by Hank Quense, not this book was written by Hank Quense and AI.
My last book was probably 50% of the text came from AIs. Queries. I had queries and I copied the queries and I copied the AI response and I put it into the book as an example of what a writer can do.
Hmm.
Now, all of the AI stuff was in italics and all of my stuff was not italicized, so people could see the difference, what was AI and what was me. But I was using the AI, the content that was AI was taken from an AI program in order to provide examples of how a writer or an author could use AI to simplify their job.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into this because we could belabor the point of the pros and the cons and so forth. You've actually found the pros, which is wonderful. They're your ideas. I would even say that when it comes to the content, you could argue, well, we owe Merriam-Webster all kinds of royalties for stealing his work from his dictionaries, but we don't do that. That's not what we're doing,
Yeah.
and so forth. And we could maybe go to school to study all kinds of different styles of writing. Let's say I wanted to write Shakespearean type work, or a Dickens, et cetera, et cetera. If I studied hard and long, I could probably start writing in that style. And AI allows us to do that. Where is it that you begin accessing, or I should say, utilizing AI? Where does that process begin for you? What are you taking to AI and saying, this is what I want?
I early last year, I was kind of bored. It was between projects, and I decided that just to do something different, I'd look into AI, because it's all over the place. Every place you look, you see an AI article. So I said, well, let me take a look and see what it's like. So I did. I got to try half a dozen different AI apps, and I was quite unimpressed. I was asking it questions, and it was giving me these generic answers that I could get in any book on fiction writing, for instance. And one day I said, um, then I read an article that said essentially said you're doing it wrong. If you want get anything out of AI, you got to put it into a detailed query. And I realized I was doing the queries wrong. And once I started doing the queries better, I got much better results. And one day I was just fooling around. I said, I asked her, what makes a great character? And it gave me a generic list of stuff, the same that I could get in any place. So then I asked it, what makes Ted Lasso a great character?
Hmm.
And it came back with this answer that just stunned me. It was so detailed and so accurate. And I realized that was the problem. The first problem was it was a generic question. You ask a detailed question, you get a detailed answer.
Hmm.
So I started fooling around more, and I typed in a storyline for one of my novels, just about 75 words. And I said, write a plot for this story. And it did. It come back with pretty excellent plot. It's not the
Hmm.
plot from the story, which was published, but it was very useful. I probably got, a dozen different plot points. And if you were creating a novel, you'd probably take two or three of those plot points and put them into your book, and discard the rest of them. And by building a plot like this would probably take me a month. This was, well, this didn't take the whole thing. It did give me several good starting points. That's when I decided I got to write a book and get other authors to understand how great this stuff could be. Then I went into how AI could help you if you were self-publishing a book, how it could help you if you were marketing a book, how it could help you with your author business. And that's essentially what's in the book. I have about 40 different queries that authors can take right out of my book and use them on themselves, for themselves. And none of them are write the story. They're not this unethical stuff where you can write a novel, in 20 minutes. This
Hmm.
is this really what it really does is saves the donkey work that you have to do. And it gives you a lot more time to be creative. As
Do you feel?
another example, if you're self-publishing a book, especially for the first time,
Hmm.
you're going to run into a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense to you. It's like it's going to say, okay, give me 7 keywords. And it says, what the hell's a keyword? And you got to do some research and you're guessing at what they are. But if you give the AI the storyline for a short synopsis and say, give me the keywords, it will give you a series of great keywords that you can just copy right into KDP. I would say probably save you hours of time and research and guessing. The
Yeah.
guessing is what screws up a lot of authors and why they don't really sell books. They got bad keywords.
Yeah.
The AI gives you great keywords.
That is probably why since September of 24, I have probably, I don't know that I've sold 10 books, maybe 20. Uh,
Mhm.
and, I've got this podcast, radio program, and video cast that I talk about all of the elements within my book throughout those podcasts, throughout the days, weeks, months, and years. Um, and I will say that the biggest frustration for me right now is trying to figure out now, here in 2025, how in the Sam Hill am I supposed to upload my audio version of my book? They have made it so complicated. That now I've uploaded before when I was producing audiobooks for other people. And it was a fairly simple process. And then it would link to the hard copy, paperback, and so forth
Yeah.
on Amazon. But I'm sitting here going, you know what? I'm just going to create a page on my website with links to each of the audio files. I'm going to put that out there and say, to heck with you, Amazon. You've made it too darn complicated. Um, and that's just one area. But you're absolutely right because I'm literally learning by the seat of my pants. I used KDP. I found out about it back in June of last year. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get this thing published because I've been trying to get it published for 15 years, only because I've been procrastinating, finishing it.
Mhm.
And I finally finished it. And I said, my due date is going to be September 7th. I beat the deadline. Um, However, it isn't, I don't think it's to the quality that it could have been if I had gone through many of the steps that we're going to have you take us through. We're talking with Hank Quense, and we're going to talk more about the author's AI toolkit, and we're going to do that as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. AI controversial? Yeah, maybe so. My bias, I admit at the front of the program, yes, but I'm learning. I am wanting to understand to the point where do I want to become an expert in it? I don't know. And how much time and effort is that going to take away from the other things that I'm doing? I don't know yet. But maybe we'll find out here from our very special guest, Hank Quince, author of the Author's AI Toolkit. First of all, um, is it important that we, if we're going to be successful, is it that important that we begin to sort accept, and I don't know if we want to go to the level of embrace, but maybe so, AI and what it can do for us, how it can make us successful?
It's AI by itself is not going to make you successful. AI is a tool,
Hmm.
that makes a lot of that'll replace a lot of the donkey work, the tasks that you have to do. It'll simplify those and save you a lot of time, but it's not going to replace your creativity. It's not going to replace all the stuff that that's inside your brain. It's just going to help. It's a tool.
Okay.
If you use it differently, you're probably being unethical. Um, if there's an example of being unethical, I've seen several times now. I've seen ads that said, "Send me your storyline and $500, and we will write a novel based on that storyline using AI. We'll make a cover and we'll print your book for $500, and all you have to do is write the storyline. We'll take care of everything else." And that, I think, is unethical because you're just creaming, other people's works. It's not going to be a very original. It's going to be a very boring book, so no one will buy it. But
Hmm.
for $500, you can say, "Hey, I'm a published author."
Hmm.
If that makes it kicks, that's fine. But you're
Sure.
not going to sell many books because no one's going to read it. No one wants to buy it. And
Right.
there's several outfits out there that are doing this,
Right.
and they're making money at it. That people are trying to get the title author the easy way.
Is there any risk whatsoever of plagiarism, of writing someone else's work into your work, i.e., via AI, or is that sort of a fail-safe of sorts using AI where you don't have to worry about that? Yeah, we all use the same words from the same dictionary, so to speak. It's just how big or small our vocabularies are. But in terms of that aspect, is there any danger in that regard?
I really don't know.
Okay. All right.
I do know that that these AI companies have just stolen all of these books, in violation of the copyright, and they use it to train the AI. I just found out yesterday that three of my books were stolen, despite the
Oh,
copyright, and they're used in AI. One fiction and two nonfiction books are in, I think it's Facebook or Meta stole them and is using it to train their AI without telling me, without disregarding my copyright notices that are in the book. But I guess that's in a corollary of what you were saying, what you were talking about.
yeah. So what's the first step? All right, I'm going to say, all right, AI. I am going to um, maybe I'm going to put out my second edition of Choices, Five Steps for Life, and I want to improve upon it. I want to make it better. I want to make it cleaner. I mean, maybe that's the better word for it, any more than
Yeah.
anything else, so that the second edition is superior in many ways to the first edition, and maybe then I will be able to maybe sell more books, get the word out more, and so on and so forth. So where do we start?
First thing you got to do is get an AI app. Um,
Do you
I,
recommend one?
yeah, I've used ChatGPT, which is common, everyone has that, but I prefer Perplexity. perplexity.ai.
Hmm.
That's the one I use constantly. Um, it has several features that are quite good, but then you have to start asking queries. Query is a question. You
Hmm.
ask the AI a question and it will respond. So you got to get some practice on writing the queries. But then you can get into, like you said, revising your book. Take a section of the book, let's say a scene or a topic, put it onto the AI and say, revise this for me or edit it for me. And it will do that. It will write a new version of your book with a lot of issues in there, a lot of corrections. So I found that one thing you got to do is correct this, write this, and tell me where you made changes. Otherwise, you'll never know what it did. So you got to say, write this, rewrite this for me, make corrections, and show me where you made the corrections. And it will do that. It will come up with, it will write something and said, I changed this to that. And it'll go on in another set of parentheses, and I modify this to read. It's really quite good at this.
Well,
It'll also pick up misspellings.
yeah, yeah. Do you feel, based upon your experience, you've been writing for how many years have you been writing?
Since the last century.
I know that sounds very strange because I'm able to make the same comments about a lot of stuff I've done. Oh yeah, I've been in
Yeah,
radio since the last century. Yeah, the
yeah,
century of Marconi.
yeah,
You can put that
yeah,
anywhere you want.
yeah.
Um, do you think that we will see the kind of authorship of books, fiction or nonfiction, such as we saw in the last, just let's just say the last century or two? Some of my favorite science fictions, Stranger in a Strange Land. It took me a long time to read. The Dune trilogy. Oh my God, I loved that story. The depth of the different aspects of it, and the list goes on. Do you think we'll have that level of classic, what we'll refer to in 30, 50, 75, 100 years, classic science fiction coming out of and am I correct? The collaboration between the human and AI?
I think it will be used, yes. I think watching my grandkids, I got five of them, the oldest, the one who's about 23, and the way they grew up, they communicate differently than we do. They're always on the phone and communicate. And they don't read books. None of my grandkids have read any of my books, and I have no intention of ever reading them, no matter how much I threaten them.
Oh,
But
wow.
I think what will happen is I don't think you're going to see print books very long. I think what's going to happen is you see ebooks, but I think AI will then take over. And if you got a fiction book, let's say like Macbeth, you want to rewrite Macbeth. I think in the future, Macbeth will actually be a game. You turn your ebook into a game, and you can play different characters. You can visualize the book as Macbeth, or you can visualize it as Lady Macbeth, or who else is in it? Duncan. You
Mm,
can see Duncan. And I think an AI will help like that. I think it would be very easy for an AI to take the book apart and reestablish it as the different characters, just from a different character's point of view. I think that's where we're going to end up going, with the way the kids their communication system and the way they read and consume stuff. It'll have to
yeah.
be a game for them to read the book. That's a guess on my part. I have no validation for that theory. That's where I think its logical conclusion is going.
Yeah. Well, obviously, time will tell, as will history, in 30 or 40 years. Change being the constant in the universe, the way that we write, the way that we create
Yeah,
works of literature has changed over the centuries. I don't know that I'd go quite as far back as to say it started with the stone tablet and chisel, but
yeah,
but when the invention of the printing press came along, that certainly changed things in a big way, at
mhm,
least as far as duplication of the work, which was wonderful. But it used to be you'd have to write in longhand, and you'd have to write with a quill if that was
yeah,
what you had at hand. And of course, we've now moved into the computer age where you can now not just speech to text, but obviously you now have AI that will assist in this process of creating the story. The other aspect of it too, and I want to continue on with some of the other elements in your toolkit, was that one of the other aspects is just because you gave these queries to AI and then AI presents to you the 100 or 300 page, or if you, I guess, do it in 100,000 word or in the word count, book, doesn't mean it's done. Because now, is it now not up to you, the author, or if you have proofers and editors or what have you, and maybe more specifically, editors, who will then go through to make sure that it flows the way that it should, as an editor would, or is an editor even needed anymore?
Oh, I think an editor is definitely needed.
Okay. So talk to
Um,
us about that process, taking AI's output and turning it over to the editor.
I view AI output as a first draft.
Mm-hmm.
I modify it, I use it as the starting step, and I modify it. I change a lot of stuff around. And in doing so, I will screw up comma placement because I always screw up comma placement. I am comma incompetent. That's my editor spends all the time taking out my commas and putting the commas in that I omitted. So, AI isn't going to change that because I'm rewriting the AI and screwing up the comma placement as I do. So and then once you start doing that, there's going to be usual typos and misplaced words and all that stuff. It's the first draft, and after you finish with it, the third draft, the fourth draft, it needs an editor.
Mm.
First draft may not need it. The AI may not need an editor, but when you get finished modifying it, you still need an editor.
So when people think of AI as assisting in authorship, that's the way they need to think of it. It is not the finished product, and that I think is, I think these are some of the aspects of AI that we know so little about it. We make conclusions based upon fear more than anything else.
That's interesting. I've been talking to authors about AI for a while now, and I've discovered that many of them are, well, they want to maintain their status quo, and many of them are afraid of AI, that it's going to either replace them entirely or they're going to get involved and not going to understand what they're doing anymore. There's a definite and substantial fear of AI with writers. I've been trying to, that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, get the book and read it, and you'll lose your fear of AI. You'll be able to use it intelligently.
I wanted to ask you about, well, I was going to give you an example, my own example. I sent my book to my sister. She's a proofreader, and I got it back, and I went and I found some areas where she had marked in red, and so forth. And I had this list of things. Now, I learned in school that when you have a list of things, usually two or more, three or more, you put a comma between each of the items except the last two where you put an and. She took out all my commas and put in ands. Now, I almost called her on it, and then I did a little research, and what I found out was both ways were correct.
Mhm.
Now, if you want to be redundant, and the, go right
Yeah,
ahead. But it's not like you're going to run out of ink or anything, that kind of
eventually.
thing.
Yeah. I guess it's an author preference, a writer's preference on how they like to see stuff.
Hmm.
Like your preference, so she put her preference in.
Yeah. But the last thing I wanted to do was create any kind of a rift between my sister and I. So I waited. I'm going, hold on a second. You asked her to do this. It's kind of
Yeah,
like the kitchen nightmares with Gordon Ramsay, and people call him and say, "Could you come in and fix our restaurant?" And then when he gets there, they blow up at him for all the changes he wants to make. So I'm going,
yeah,
let's not create a family thing here.
yeah. Right.
Let's
Yeah,
do a little more research.
you don't have to accept the proofreaders or the editors' fixes.
True.
You can reject them.
Yeah. Yeah. We're talking with Hank Quense. We're talking about the Author's AI Toolkit, and we're talking about it here on Tell Me Your Story. Hank Quense, my guest. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. Hank, when did you start? When did you get the urge to write? And do you remember what the first thing you wrote and whether it was published or not that fostered this desire because you are very prolific?
I remember on my 50th birthday, way back in the last century, I was a sales manager for a large corporation. I had an office in Manhattan. And on my 50th birthday, I sat around, had a couple beers, and think about what am I going to do next? It's only a matter of time until they tell me to take a hike. We want your office for a younger kid. So I decided that my next career, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to write fiction. Despite the fact I had no clue how to write fiction, I decided that's what I'm going to do. And undeterred by ignorance, I just pushed along, and started writing scenes and stuff on a commute to Manhattan. And eventually, then I started to get some comments back from, as I submitted stories, short stories. I started to get some comments back that were encouraging. And lo and behold, the corporation made this fantastic offer, go away and, don't bother us and we'll give you all this money. So I said, yes, give me the money and I'm out of here. I'm an author, I'm a writer from now on. And I took the money and, my wife said, okay, yeah, you want to do that, fine. And I did. So I set up an office at home. The corporation paid for laptops and printers and stuff like that as part of the deal. And so I went. And eventually I sold the story.
Yeah.
And I think I got $10 for it. And I do not admit that I wrote the story. And I do not admit what the publication was. It was terrible. It was mimeograph pages, had a hand-drawn cover, and it was stapled
Oh
together.
my. Oh, by the way, I love the smell of mimeograph ink. And that's not something like I would get like model glue and sniff it. No, but in
Yes.
school when they would
Yeah.
mimeograph stuff and they would hand it out, it's like, oh, that's like being in the
Smudges and
light.
all.
Yeah, it's the same thing with going into a library, whether it's a school library or public library, filled with books, and you get that aroma that is
Yeah.
just it's intoxicating. I want to read every book in the place, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's wonderful. We're talking with Hank Quense about authorship. And one of the neat things, Hank, is that with your first article, your first publication, your first writing, especially if it was published, you now can say, as you've already stated, I am an author.
Mhm.
And with, for example, I can now say I am a songwriter because I've written one song. All right, and it's not
All
necessarily a
it
one.
takes.
What's that?
It's all it takes.
It's all it takes. Um, so and it's kind of nice to put that down. Put that at the end of maybe on your business card or what have you.
Yeah.
Uh, but at the same time, one item does not make you an author to the extent that a lot of people are going to read you unless, and I don't know, I'm sure there have been a few first time authors who have released a book, it's been published, and boom, it just exploded. And maybe they became millionaires and they were all the media on the media circuits and so forth. That's rare. That's very rare. uh,
Yes.
but but yeah, I guess you have to figure out what it is that you want. Did you know, was it more than just I need to write, I have these ideas in my head? Was there more to it than that? I need other people to read this, I need to share this with the world.
So when I first started off, it was a little hazy, exactly what I was doing. But they started to read stuff and they said, you got to do some research, find out what's selling and you write to that genre. And I said, I'm not doing that. I'm going to write a story because I like the story. I like
Hmm.
to write it. I like the story. It's fun. I'm going to write it and I don't really give a damn if anyone reads it. I'm going to write it and it's going to get published eventually. And that's what I do. If anybody wants to read it, that's great. I hope you love it. If you don't want to read it,
Yeah.
that's fine. Go read
Do,
something else.
do
I
you
don't
have
care.
do you have a count at all of how many books you have published, both fiction and nonfiction?
I think on Amazon right now I have about 24.
24.
which means I wrote about 40, the others are garbage.
Have you ever gone back to those to try to beef them up, revitalize them, etc.?
No,
No, you said that's
no,
done.
yeah. For lack of anything else to read, I just reread one of my novels. It was terrible. I said, who the hell edited this thing? I don't think I did have an editor on it. I think I was at the top point. It's not a very good book.
Yeah,
No, I'm not going to change it, but I'm not going to promote it or anything. It was really bad. A lot of editing. It could have been I could have written it much better,
yeah.
but I didn't.
This program deals with the more esoteric constructs, if you will, metaphysical and spiritual, and I was thinking in my mind, I was thinking about the soul of a book, regardless of the genre, fiction, nonfiction, science fiction, romance, drama, western, etc. And the soul comes from the author. Now, once again, and I think that my bias is starting to shift a little bit here because I'm beginning to better understand that the soul of the book is still coming from the author because of
Not
the
from the
process.
AI.
It's not
AI
coming
will
from
never give
AI.
the soul to a book.
Yeah, yeah,
That
and
comes from the author, and it always will.
yeah,
So the books that are written by the AI don't have a soul. They're junk.
yeah. They will not win a Pulitzer or whatever other book awards there are out there.
Yeah.
And it's a real interesting thing. And I now I did you have any teachers in school that fostered in any way this idea? Maybe only after you reached the age of 50, it was like, yeah, I wrote some stuff in school and it wasn't bad, and the teachers gave me a pretty good mark on it, and maybe I got a shot at this. Was there anything like that for you?
I got the in high school, English was one of my best subjects. I turned out I was very good at writing, and my English teachers loved my writing. But I never did anything after that because I went to engineering school, and I got involved in engineering and sales, and I really didn't have any time to write. But actually, after I retired, and I was writing fiction for several years, I realized that I've been writing fiction most of my adult life.
Hmm.
Sales, we just called them sales plans, but they were as fictitious as any book I ever wrote. Pure invention. Whatever the staff group wanted. Yeah, fine. Here, take this.
I may want to hitch up on some of those materials for sales and marketing because I happen to be working for the first time in my 45-year career in the sales area of a local radio station I've been with for 19 years, and it's only in this since last November, December that I said, I want to do more than just sit here and produce programs, which I love doing, doing
Mhm.
interviews, which I love doing. I want to add another area of contribution to what our listeners are hearing and what our community is participating in. Our slogan, by the way, is the
Mhm.
station that talks about Santa Barbara. And that's what we do. We're a local, I would say independently owned. However, the corporation that owns us owns 48 other stations, but they're all Spanish music stations. We're the only English station that they own. And I want to make it as successful as possible, regardless of what others say about where radio's going. It's not going anywhere. It will continue to thrive.
I believe it
Maybe
will, yes.
Maybe with AI, maybe without, who knows? But nonetheless, um, when you first started out, I'm curious. I always ask this question of my guests. What was the philosophy that you were raised by? How did your folks raise you? In any particular, I use the word philosophy. Others will use the word religion.
No, I don't really think so. I went to a Jesuit high school, and they were quite good at teaching, but they also had a lot of religion, but the religion didn't take with me. I
Mm,
was I asked why, and I asked too many questions. Why and how did this happen?
here too.
Yeah, no, it really didn't take with me. But I don't really have a philosophical. background. I don't think it doesn't bother me very much that I just go ahead and do what I want.
Hmm.
I don't know, like a free soul.
When you're writing fantasy or science fiction, does that ever play into there where you have a character, a deific, so to speak, or hierarchical situation that requires a little backstory on how all of this started, so to speak?
No, I
Kind of like
really
with
no, never. None of my stories included anything like that.
nothing like that. So
They're not very philosophically deep.
okay. But you do focus on in some areas on fantasy in your fiction in fantasy and science fiction.
Yeah, humorous sci-fi and humorous fantasy.
Satire, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I actually enjoy that. Television programs that I've watched, Oroville with Seth MacFarlane, is rather satirical in its own way. But there are so many other things. I'm wondering, do you think that satire is lost on people today like it was in the literally in the last century? Specifically, I'm thinking of satirists like Stan Freberg.
No, I don't think it's. I don't think it'll be lost. I think it requires I think you got to have some smarts though in order to be able to appreciate satire.
Hmm.
Otherwise the satire just falls flat. It just goes right past people's heads. But I think it's always room for. There's always good satire is priceless.
I couldn't agree more. One of my
Yes, the key to science that's to satire though, it's got to piss people off. If it doesn't piss people off, it's bad satire, or it's not satire at all. And in order to write good satire, the author has to be pissed off at the subject that he's writing about.
Mm.
The more angry you are, the better the satire will be.
Oh, I love that. I love that. One of the great scenes from one
I
of
hope I can
Stan,
say that, by the way.
you,
On radio.
hey, you're the guest, as long as we stay away from the profanity from that
Yeah.
standpoint, so I don't have to edit out for the program for the radio show. But I'll just say that there's a great scene in one of Stan Freberg's albums, The United States of America, the early years. The characters are Christopher Columbus and King Ferdinand of Spain. They are aboard one of the ships that is sailing to the New World. And so the conversation, basically, very short conversation, goes like this. Um, you hear the gentleman in the crow's nest saying, "Land ho!" And Chris says, "Well, land ho! I better climb up into the rigging and take a look for myself." To which Ferdinand says, "You mean on top of everything else, this ship is rigged?" I just thought that was a humorous line from bringing it forward to the modern days when my best friend and I used to listen to that back in the 70s over and over. We would be in school walking down the corridors or out on the playground reciting and redoing these lines with each other. It's just hilarious some of the things that he came up with and others as well. And I
Yeah.
encourage people to get a copy or copies thereof of your books, your science fiction. Are all of your fiction satirical in nature
Satirical or humorous.
and
They're all
humorous?
humorous. Some
Anyone
of them
you
have
would
more satire than others.
anyone you'd recommend to our listeners to that would be a good place to start for them?
Falstaff's Big Gamble.
False aspect gamble?
Falstaff's. No,
Oh,
Falstaff's Big
Falstaff's gamble.
Gamble.
Okay.
It's a Shakespearean satire. I
Oh,
combined Othello and Hamlet together, made them into comedies, and threw in Falstaff. Hamlet is the dwarf, Othello is the dark elf, and it goes downhill from there.
yeah, I
I think it's really a good book.
yeah, I know that Saturday Night Live just celebrated its 50th anniversary, and it's satire through and through. And
Yeah,
there are certain individuals in our country today who they don't get it. They just don't get it, and it makes them angry. And so apparently, Saturday Night Live and yourself, they're doing their job. and you're doing
Yeah, people
yours.
get angry at it. Yeah, keep up the good work.
That means that they succeeded, and
Yes,
I
yeah.
yeah, it's
Some
fascinating.
people get angry and some people laugh at it because it's funny, but the
Yeah.
people who get, that's the ones who were the satire is aimed at, the people who are getting angry.
Yeah. That's why I find it interesting when people are willing to be roasted. I mean, there's a form of satire, if you will,
Yeah,
making jokes about another person. And, it's for those of us viewing, it's very funny. I hope that the person sitting there being roasted understands what the purpose of a roast is and doesn't take it personally and just has the good fun that it was intended to be.
well, if they're going to take it seriously, they probably shouldn't have accepted the
Yeah.
invitation.
Exactly. Exactly. Hank Quince, my guest, authors AI Toolkit, and this is Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host here on the all natural, non AI, at least for the time being, program that gives you new paradigms for a new world. And we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And maybe one of those choices, if you want to be an author, or maybe you are, is AI. Um, the thing that I find fascinating, and you know what, I may very well download one of these AI programs and just see what happens.
Yeah,
You
play
know,
around with it.
play around with it. What about AI in other realms? For example, the technology that you and I are using right now has offered this AI companion, which I have up to this point said, no, I don't need a companion. I'm doing fine by myself. Thank you.
Well, I think
What
of
it,
AI as a writing assistant or a writing buddy.
right?
Uh, but that's how I use it. It's my writing buddy or my
Yeah,
assistant. It does a lot of stuff for me,
yeah.
and it actually lightens my workload.
Hmm. And I love the fact that you have told us already from the very start that we've all already been using it long before the letters AI were cast into the current zeitgeist
Yeah,
from the i.e. spell check. And that's just one, you know. Uh,
yeah.
and and I'm sure that there are others as well. For example, if I was typing, am I utilizing AI when I'm typing into a Google search window and it starts filling in what it thinks I want
Yeah.
as that list below?
Uh, I'll give you an example. One of the things I have in my book is up, or one of the lectures I have is I typed into something into an AI, and I got this huge list of stuff that was very relevant. And I typed the same list, the same query into Google search, and all it did give me about 5 websites that may have an answer to what I asked. So it is Google search and AI aren't even vaguely the same. AI is the AI search is so much more in depth compared to Google search.
Because you are going to get a more refined search result from
Yeah,
AI than you would from Google.
yeah, yeah. It's got a vast library of stuff that it looks at. I don't know what Google search does, but the first 5 or 6 items in Google search is sponsored. They're ads. And you got to get past the ads before you really see what Google was looking for.
Yeah. I've got another question for you in regards to AI, and you mentioned an incident regarding Facebook and plagiarism or stealing of your work. Um, uh, in that regard, is there at all a feeling of flattery that they chose your books to steal as opposed to someone else's, or did you actually feel rather violated and, hey, wait a minute, I need to be compensated for this?
I think I should be. I should have asked them, asked my permission.
Yeah.
I just found out yesterday about this, by the
Oh,
way.
wow.
Yeah, I saw something with some friend of mine, another writer said she gets 3 books stolen, and she gave me a link that there actually is a link you can type in your name, and it will tell you if any of your books have been used to train AI systems. That's how I found out the 3 books were there. Yeah, I was a little angry about that, that
Yeah.
they did it without asking my permission, and they just simply violate my copyright. No,
Hmm.
no question about it, no questions. So yeah, it was a little aggravating.
Yeah. Is there any desire on your part for follow up to say to I don't know, I don't want to say retaliation, legal action, if you will.
I think there is legal action going against a lot of these people. Some big authors have really taken it on, and they're suing all the AI companies for misuse of copyright.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'll have any influence on that. So I'll just probably watch it go,
Yeah.
see what happens.
And we are kind of in a strange new world in that, there. I mean, I remember when the internet just started back in the early mid '90s, and there were no laws governing the internet because it was so
Oh,
new. And
yeah,
as we
right.
enter these new phases, it's the same situation.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's fascinating. It really is. Um, Hank Quince, my guest. Hank Quince is my guest, and I have to say that yeah, you've made a difference in my way of thinking about this, and I very well may look into an AI program such as the ones you referenced, to again test it out. I have. I'll just say I bought a tool from the local hardware store and I asked about the refund policy if it didn't work, and they said, "Yeah, bring the receipt, the packaging, and the receipt and the packaging, and yeah, we'll give you a refund," which I'm going to do because the product did not do what it was supposed to do.
yeah,
And so, I mean, try it out, see what happens. And I guess
yeah,
my book is safe in that it probably won't be stolen by Facebook, because it was definitely not written by AI.
yeah. Uh, the AI programs that I have. There's two versions of it. There's a free version, and then there's a paid version, or what they call a professional version, which is $20 a month. The free version would be great for you, just to try it out. I
Yeah,
think you can have, it'll let you ask 5 queries a day or something like that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
getting back to them stealing my books, uh, if it was pirated, like a pirate site, I wouldn't mind
yeah,
because people are getting the book free. If they like the book, maybe they'll buy some more books, online, or maybe they'll write a review. But
there you
Meta,
go.
they're not going to do a damn thing for my books. Well, they're just using it without fees.
Yeah.
So being pirated by a pirate site and by AI are two entirely different things.
Makes me, I wish I could remember the character that does this, but it kind of goes, Zuckerberg. Oh, it is a strange new world. There's no question about it, and
Yes, it is.
change is
Yeah,
a constant in the universe. And quite honestly, human beings, what we do, the one thing that we do best of anything else, quite honestly, is we adapt. We do
yeah.
adapt.
That's what I keep telling writers. I say, look, AI isn't going to go away,
Yeah,
so you might as well try and use it, and adapt
yeah,
and figure out how to use it.
yeah. I often wonder what was the tool that they used to hammer nails into wood before the hammer. You know,
Rocks,
uh,
rocks.
rocks, exactly. So did the rock industry have a problem with the hammer?
That's right. They fought tooth and nail against it.
That's right. Lawsuits are still pending. We're talking with Hank Quince, and this is Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and Hank Quince is my guest. HankQuinceAuthor.com is the
Right,
website,
you got it.
and we'll link
No
to that
spaces.
so that people can find out more about the work you're doing and the 24 books you've written. You can certainly go to Amazon and type in Hank Quince, and I'm sure they'll
That'll
all
work.
pop up for you. But
Yeah.
we encourage you to find out about that. And Hank, I want to thank you. This has been a fun. That's the one thing I am overjoyed about, and I didn't want to turn it into an argument of any kind. But it's been a lot
Yeah.
of fun, and I've really enjoyed learning from you.
I enjoyed this also. Like you said, this was fun. This was
Yeah.
fun, Rich.
I do have, from my perspective, three final questions that I ask all of my guests.
Okay, shoot them up.
But as soon as I tell you, thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We're here Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com with podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and many other locations on the web. We're on YouTube where you can watch these interviews. I hope you will. I also hope you'll subscribe and click notification. We also want to remind you that Choices, 5 Steps for Life, the non-AI version at this point, is available on Amazon. And we hope you get yourself a hardcover, paperback, or Kindle version. We also want to remind you that if you'd like to support the work that we're doing here financially, we would be gratefully appreciative. We have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours, as well as the fact that on richarddugan.com, the homepage, there is a link to both Amazon for the book, Choices, and PayPal for the tip. And we also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to spend some time going within where all great ideas come from and listen to that still small voice. And with all of that being said, we do move to our final segment here, which is the 3 questions that we ask our very special guests every time we talk with them. And our guest here has this question first. Who is Hank Quense?
Who am I? I'm an author and a lecturer, and I'm an old guy with 5 grandkids, 2 daughters, 5 grandkids, and they all live near me, and I love them all. And that's what I do when I'm not writing. Hang out with my grandkids as much as I can.
What gets you up in the morning?
What gets me up? Usually I have a chore that I want to take care of, my writing or my business. I got up this morning, I was going to make a video, but it got all messed up and screwed up. Maybe it'll work tomorrow. I'm going to try again. I'm going to get up tomorrow morning and make a video about character arcs. It didn't work this morning. Total failure. Well, I'll try it again tomorrow. And if that doesn't work, I'll try the next day. I'm going to get the damn thing done, though.
Very good, very good. And finally, what was your best day?
My best day. The day I got married.
Well, Hank, I thank you for sharing your story with us, as well as enlightening yours truly about AI and sharing with us about the author's AI toolkit. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you, Richard. I really enjoyed being here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome, and I thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love Talal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for letting me be in your life. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.